Tonight's story begins in a flower shop and ends in a grave of petals. A girl returns home to plant the seeds of revenge against the women who once mocked her. But from her soil of bitterness grows something else, something that blooms only at midnight and feeds on guilt, envy, and blood. Because every seed remembers the hand that planted it. Welcome to Nightmare Proof, where true horror comes alive. Here, you'll hear real stories of the strange, the disturbing, and the unexplainable. Turn down the lights, get comfortable, and prepare to face the darkness. The seedling I could smell home even when I couldn't see it. I was glad. Driving away down Snicket Street, on the outskirts of Mason County, I wanted to smell every one of the 5 acres of overgrown turnip fields around me. I once heard someone say that smell is the sense that sparks the most emotion. I had come back home with a mission, and I needed emotion. I needed anger. The earthy, inky scent helped, but I would have found the anger anyway. It had filled my veins for 20 years, ever since the girls of Primrose Park uprooted me from my happy childhood. When my parents sent me into their world on scholarship, I tried to make friends. I really did try. On my first day at Colvin Preparatory School, I brought my favorite book on unusual plants. I thought everyone would look at the pages with awe like I did. For a third-generation farm girl, plants were what made the world turn. I would get to teach my new fancy friends about them. At recess, my eyes were drawn to the girl with the longest, prettiest hair. It was the yellow of daffodils. Her name was Mary Jo White, and she was surrounded by other flower girls. I still didn't know I should have been afraid. I had practiced my greeting all morning. "Hi, I'm Taylor Sawyer. Do you want to read my book about unusual plants with me?" Mary Jo turned to me with a toss of her daffodil hair and gave a confused but not unkind smile. She opened her mouth in what I knew was going to be a yes, and I felt like I was finding new soil. Before she could speak, one of the other flower girls interrupted. Her name was Sarah Lynn Roundlin, and her cheeks were pink like peonies. Aren't unusual plants what witches make potions from?" I started to say that I didn't know, but my lips were too slow. "Are you a witch?" Then she giggled, a sound of cute cruelty that only a little girl can make. Mary Jo joined in, and soon the entire beautiful bouquet was making that same awful sound. I turned before they could see my tears. My grandpa had called me tough, and I wasn't going to give them that much. As I walked away, I never ran, never disappointed my grandpa. I heard Mary Jo call to me, "Taylor, wait!" But it was too late. I was afraid the beautiful girls would look down on me, and they had. Those giggles told me that the flowers of Primrose Park didn't want the girl from the turnip farm in their walled garden. For years, I did my best to oblige. I was stuck in their earth, but I tried to lay dormant until graduation. I used that time lying in wait to grow. Before Sarah Lynn Roundlin, I had only ever heard about witches in cartoons. I had never thought they might be people of the earth like me and my family. That afternoon, I decided I needed more information. I searched online for, "Do witches like plants?" That was the beginning. After that afternoon, I spent every lonely night and weekend on the computer in my bedroom learning more and more about plant magic. Thanks to the internet, you don't even need to join a coven or wear a robe to learn the old secrets of nature. I'm not sure which stories were supposed to be real and which were supposed to be stories, but they all taught me something. They taught me that there was more than Colvin Prep, more than Primrose Park, more than Mason County. As I grew up, I spent less time on magic and more time on botany. I wasn't sure if botanomancy or herbalism were real, but breeding is, biotechnology is, gene editing is. By the time I was in high school, I had started to grow roots in that world. Every day, Mary Jo or Sarah Lynn or one of their kind would say, "Hi, Taylor," or "What are you reading, Taylor?" They wanted to seem sweet. Their debutante mothers had raised them well. I wasn't that stupid. The world wanted them because they had thin waists and firm chests and could afford makeup and brand-name shoes to bring style to their uniforms. I saw my glasses and weight in the mirror every day and knew my superstore shoes would barely last the school year. They never had to say anything. People liked them, hated people like me. But it didn't matter anymore. I was meant for a different garden. After graduation, I did more than dig up my Mason County roots. I burned them. I wouldn't need them anymore. I drove away from the church that night, with my robe still on, and never planned to come back. My university was only 2 hours away, but it was an entirely different biosphere. There, all I had to do was study. I found my own new earth digging in the soil of the botany lab. With my advisor, Dr. Dorian, I read every book on horticulture or plant genetics in the library. I may not have been a hothouse flower myself, but I could grow them. The turnip farm had taught me that much. After Dr. Dorian first showed me how to edit a seed's genome, I could even create them. When I went for my robe fitting, I realized my body had bloomed too. Skipping meals to work late nights in the lab had helped me lose weight. Never taking the time for a haircut had let my hair grow from the spikes of a burr into long, straight vines. I still didn't look like Mary Jo or the social media models who had spread over the world like kudzu. My hair was still dirt brown instead of blonde, but I didn't mind looking at myself in the mirror. Of course, seasons change. The Monday after graduation, I went to start my research job in Dr. Dorian's lab. Instead of the little old man with a wreath of gray hairs, I found a note waiting at my workstation. Dear Miss Sawyer, I am sorry to tell you that I have retired. The university has informed me that it will be closing my lab effective immediately. It has kindly granted you the enclosed severance payment, providing you 1 month of compensation. I wish you the best of luck as you embark on your career. That's how I found my way back to the turnip farm. I stretched that severance payment as far as it would go, but it would have taken more time than I had to find one of the few entry-level botanical research jobs in the country. I was pruned. I had worked and studied to grow beyond what Mason County said I could be. I had flowered and was almost in full bloom. Then fate clipped off my head. I was back where I said I'd never be. I stayed at home and helped my father for a few months. Farm life had been hard on him, and we both knew it was almost time for the seasons to change again. Just when he would have been preparing for the harvest, I found him asleep in his recliner. He never woke up, and I was left nothing. Nothing to do, nothing to grow, nothing to be. The night after burying him, I stood in my childhood bathroom mirror. I had grown so much, but not at all. I was still the weed I had been at Colvin Prep. The weed they had made me. My blood surged into my head, and my teeth ground like a mortar and pestle. My hand curled itself into a fist and struck the mirror. The glass cracked and sliced through my hand. It felt good. It felt righteous. I was done laying in the dirt. If Mason County wanted my pain, I would let it hurt. That was a month ago. It didn't take long for me to find an abandoned storefront. There aren't a lot of people moving into Primrose Park these days. Old money starts to die eventually, so the owner was all too ready to sell it to me at a steal. Repaying the bank loan won't be an issue. Fate, even, fertilized my mission. The property is in the county's latest death rattle of development, a gilded thistle of a shopping center called The Sector. It's just blocks from Colvin Prep. I knew just the design that would attract my prey. All those years being cast out from the world of Colvin Prep gave me time to observe their behavior. The shop is minimal beige and white, desperately trendy. Walking in, you come to me at my register. Turning right, you see the tables and their flowers. I have everything from yellow roses and carnations to chrysanthemums and hollyhocks. I know they will die. They aren't what anyone is coming to the seedling for. We are all there for the Midnight Mistress. She was born of a magnolia. Growing up in a county that celebrates the magnolia as a symbol of civic pride, I couldn't escape it with its inky shadow leaves and spoiled milk petals. That night in the mirror, when I had come home for good, I knew the magnolia would be my homecoming gift. To the magnolia, I added the black dahlia for both its color and its pollen production. At university, I had hoped to find a way to use large pollen releases to administer medications to those with aversions to pills and needles. But it could be just as useful for administering the more potent powder of the lily of the valley. Finally, I wanted the Mistress to spread over walls and gardens, like evil had spread over Mason County long before my time. Thus the addition of wisteria. By the time she was born, the Mistress grew on grasping tendrils and displayed large, curving night black petals on the magnolia's dark, abysmal leaves. Most importantly, she grew quickly. She'd have done her work in just 4 weeks. Of course, some of this work was beyond the confines of ordinary botany, even beyond gene editing. I needed more than splices to bring the Mistress to life, and I had been thrown from the Eden of Dr. Dorian's lab. Fortunately, I had the knowledge that the flower girls had inspired me to find. Women like me, women who society has called witches, have always had our ways. With a bit of deer's blood and a few incanted words from a forum, I had all I needed. By the time Mary Jo White came to the shop, the Mistress was waiting. Time had barely changed her. I had lived and died and been reborn in the last 4 years. She made it through with a few gray hairs and some chemically filled wrinkles. Her fake smile told me she hadn't grown. "Hi there, welcome to the sector. Looks like you're all settled in?" She reached a pink nailed through the handle of her patent leather bag. Her other hand held an oversized cup in hard pink plastic. I recognized her for the flytrap she always had been, always was, and always would be. Then I had a beautiful realization. She didn't recognize me. She hadn't thought of me for 4 years, maybe more. "Hi there." I turned her artificial sunlight back into her eyes. "I don't believe we've met. I'm Taylor Chandler. Nice to meet you." She looked me over as I shook her hand. Then she laughed to herself. That same giggle. "That's funny. You remind me of another girl I knew once. Her name was Taylor, too. She was sweet, but between me and you, you're much prettier." She tried to lure me in with a wink that said we were old friends. I kept beaming her reflection back to her. That was all a girl like her wanted. "I'm Mary Jo White." A real smile broke through my stone one when I realized she had never married. Or, better yet, had become a divorcee. Being single after 21 was a mortal wound for a flower girl. This would be easier than I thought. "Nice to meet you, Mary Jo. I love your bag." By instinct, she looked down to her bag for a quick moment, like she was nervous that I'd steal it. While she was looking up, she saw the Mistress draping over the front of my counter. And I love this. It was one of the only genuine sentences I had ever heard her say. Her eyes were as large as the Mistress's flowers. "I've been gardening since I wasn't up to my granny's knee, but I've never seen anything like this. Thank you, Mary Jo. That's very kind. It's a very rare breed." I hesitated for a moment. Panic. Despite all my dreaming of this moment, I had run out of words. I was thinking too hard. From China. People like Mary Jo loved foreign cultures, so long as they never had to be more than accessories. It's stunning. My eyes don't want to look away. That part of the incantation had worked. After a moment, she looked up at me, but her eyes wanted to linger. What's it called? The Midnight Mistress. I'm actually giving free seeds to each of my first 100 guests. Her eyes shined with the greed of someone who had never been told no. Would you like one? Well, I certainly would, but I'll leave them for your customers. I hope to return soon, but today I'm just here as the president of the Merchants Association. She handed me a round sticker with the mall's garish logo. That's my tea shop right next door. My real smile returned. She had never matured past tea parties. Well, how about that? I love tea. I'll have to stop by soon. But today, I insist. I'll be excited to learn how they grow for you here in this country air. If everything goes right, they should bloom in just about 4 weeks. I handed her the bag of seeds, and her fingers clutched it tightly. 4 weeks? For such impressive flowers? That's what I'm told. It must be magic. Now we both giggled, but for very different reasons. Waiting for Mary Jo's Mistress to bloom, time ceased to matter. From that day in the shop, I knew how it all would end. Time wasn't worth measuring anymore. I think it was around 2 weeks before Sarah Lynn Roundlin came in. I knew she would. Gravity as strong as what Mary Jo exercised on Sarah Lynn and the other flower girls may weaken over time, but it never ends. The years hadn't been as kind to Sarah Lynn. Her cheeks were still pink, but they had begun to wilt into jowls. Her hair was a stone, black and unmoving. She had either spent a significant sum on a stylist or been reduced to a wig. A small part of me felt sorry for her. People like her rely so much on their appearance. That part of me would have said it was unfair to hurt her more than she had already suffered. As fate would have it, Sarah Lynn and the world that loved her had killed that small part of me. When she came in, I was repotting a tulip. In a different life, I might have opened a real flower shop and spent my years with my hands in the dirt. I might have passed every day enjoying the smells of flowers so strong that they created tastes on my tongue. I crashed back to earth when the door chimed. "Hi there. Welcome to the Seedling. Could I interest you in a tulip?" I knew the answer. She too had come for the Mistress. "Oh, no thank you. It is beautiful though." Then a memory flickered in her eyes. She smiled to herself like she was remembering something innocent. Have we met? I don't think so." I knew it would be easy. Sarah Lynn was never the brightest girl in class. "I'm new in town, Taylor Chandler." Sarah Lynn giggled to herself. She may have looked worse, and she may have seemed kinder. But that sound rooted my conviction in place. "Oh, my mistake. You just look like an old school friend of mine." How could she say that? We were never friends. She had tormented me day after day with her malevolent neglect and condescending charm. More than that, people like her were why my life had burned. "Oh, it's all right. I get that all the time. What can I help you with?" "Just a few more moments." "Well, I actually came to ask about this." She waved her hand over the Mistress. "Ah, it seems like she's making a reputation for herself." Another giggle. "I suppose so. I saw the buds growing at prime. My friend Mary Jo's house, and I just had to have some for myself." All these years later, Sarah Lynn was still the follower. Girls like her always are. Coming right up. She smiled at me with too much warmth. I needed her to stop. I needed to hate her. I handed her her fate. "Is that Mary Jo White? How is she doing?" "I haven't seen her around her shop recently." "Oh, please put her on your prayer list. She seems to have fallen prey to the worst flu I've ever seen. It started 2 weeks ago. Doctor, Tate has her on all the antivirals she can handle, but it's only getting worse. The Mistress's magic taking root. She's even taken to fainting." "Oh my." "Well, I will definitely be praying for her." That wasn't a lie. I had been praying to the Mistress ever since I last saw Mary Jo. There but for the grace of God go I. "Well, thank you, Taylor. I'll give Mary Jo your best. And thank you for the seeds." The door chimed again as she walked out. It chimed again just hours later, when another one of my friends from Colvin came in to buy her seeds. People like those from Primrose Park are predictable. They follow their biology. Once the leader has something, everyone else has to. Their instincts demand it. The door chimed again and again and again over the next 2 weeks. By the time Elise McAllister walked in, I had started to forget the women's names. Elise had been my only friend at Colvin. When she arrived, the year after me, the flower girls cast her aside too. She was also on scholarship hers for music, but she was also the first black girl in the school's history. If I was a weed to Primrose Park, she was an invasive species. For the first few months she was there, she and I became best friends almost by necessity. Having ever only known homeschool or Colvin, having a friend was unusual. But it was a good season, before it did what seasons always do. When the talent show came around, Elise sang. She sang like a bird. No one expected her meek spirit to make such a sound. When the flower girls heard her, they decided they would have her. The next day, she ate lunch with Mary Jo and Sarah Lynn. She invited me over, but I pretended not to hear her. I didn't want to hurt her, but I knew my place. She didn't realize it yet. She was too kind, too. Girls like her don't eat lunch with girls like me. Welcome to the Seedling. How can I help you? Elise paused in the doorframe and stared. Oh my God! Is that Taylor Sawyer? She bounced up to me for a hug, still kind as ever. Too many feelings flooded through my body. Fear that someone had recognized me, joy that someone had seen me, sadness that I knew how this conversation ended. That had been decided after the talent show. Most of all, shame. Deep, miserable shame for everything I had done and everything I would do. No? I don't believe we've met. I'm Taylor Chandler. I gave her the wave and smile I had practiced for weeks by then. How can I help you? Her eyes flickered between confusion and hurt. She knew what she saw. Oh well, let me guess. You're here for the Midnight Mistress. She's just flying off the shelves. Forgive my manners. I just could have sworn you were a dear old friend of mine. Nice to meet you, Taylor. I'm Elise. And yes, I came here for that beauty there. I saw it on my friend Sarah Lynn's picket fence and just had to have some seeds of my own. Nice to meet you, Elise. Coming right up. I walked to the storage closet in the back of the shop. I kept the mistress's seeds under the counter. I didn't need seeds. I needed silence. Mary Jo deserved the mistress. Sarah Lynn did too. They had laughed at me, condescended to me, doomed me. But, Elise, years ago, I thought she had betrayed me. But wouldn't I have done the same thing? Wouldn't I have hurt her just for a chance to do the same thing? She had never hurt me. All she did was give kindness to my enemy. Yes, but also to me. Did she deserve the mistress? I walked back to the counter to find Elise browsing the tables. I'm sorry, Elise. It seems I'm out of seeds for the mistress. She gave a goofy smile. Well, damn. Too bad then. I'll just take this. She brought over the tulip I had been working on when Sarah Lynn arrived. It was blossoming like I hoped Elise's life would after my lie. I cashed my old friend out. Thank you for stopping by. We hope to see you again. And thank you. Once I deliver this beauty to my friend Mary Jo, I'll probably need one for Sarah Lynn too. Is that Mary Jo White? How is she doing? I heard she has the flu, but the tea shop's been dark for weeks now. Elise's bright face drooped. It made me not want to hear the answer. Oh, I'm afraid to say she doesn't have long. We thought it was the flu, but it's turned into something else. I saw a tear in her eye and wanted to burn the mistress then and there. It was too late. All I could do was finish it. After Elise gave me a warm hug that made my stomach churn, I walked down to Mary Jo's house. I learned that she had inherited her family's old home in Primrose Park, so I knew just where to go, the very place I had never been invited. If I had, maybe we could have all avoided our fate. I rang the doorbell twice before I heard any response. It was a weak, tired, "Come in." It was Mary Jo's voice, but it was dying. I walked in and saw my nemesis lying on a hospital bed. Her skin had turned from porcelain to a ghostly, unnatural gray. Her hair was still blonde, but it was limp on her head, more like straw than daffodil petals. The sight of her beauty taken from her so young was supposed to make me happy. Hi, Mary Jo. Hello, who's there? I walked into the light of the lamp by her bed. It's me, Taylor, from the flower shop. Oh, that's right. My apologies. Thank you for stopping by, Taylor. I'd get up, but my heart. It's okay. She reached for my hand, and I held it before I knew what I was doing. Some instinct I never knew I had wanted to comfort her. Wanted to comfort Mary Jo White. How long do you have? Who knows? Dr. Tate's never seen anything like this. I taught Pilates, and now he says I have an arrhythmia. I think that's what it's called. This wasn't the girl from Colvin Prep. That girl had grown up just like I had. This was a woman who I barely knew, a woman who served tea, who kept up with old friends, who cared for her community. I'm so sorry, Mary Jo. I feel like we just met. I suppose we didn't have very long to be friends, but I'm glad I met you. Will you make sure they take care of my tea shop? I worked my whole life for that place. I'll try. Another kind lie. Is there anything else I can do? I'll take a glass of water. Coming right up. She pointed me toward the kitchen, and I walked into the gleaming white room. On her dining room table, I saw my monster. She had swallowed the glass tabletop and spread her gripping tendrils onto the hardwood floor. I knew what I had to do with her. I took Mary Jo her water and excused myself. I didn't want to keep either of us from resting. The door chimed when I walked back into the Seedling, the place that I thought would make it all make sense. I looked at the Mistress who was supposed to be my vengeance. She had done her part, but it had been for nothing. I plucked one of her giant black flowers and took it to the counter. I thought of my first day at Colvin Prep. How quickly I had decided to hate it. I ate a petal. I remembered Elise and how I had cast her aside as soon as she showed kindness to others. I ate a petal. I thought of my grandfather, Dr. Dorian, my father. I had prided myself so much on what they had thought of me. I had never grown past letting others define me. I ate another petal. As my stomach started to turn, I remembered the turnip farm. Who was it that had told me it was something to be ashamed of? No one at Colvin Prep ever said a word about it. I had decided it was shameful, and I had built a world around that shame, around the hate that grew from that shame. I thought of drinking the turnip juice I kept in the refrigerator in the break room. It helped me make it this far. If I drink it, I can go on. Somehow, the Mistress's magic turned the root of my hate into the remedy. I don't deserve it. I sacrificed my entire self, seeking the magic of vengeance. Its spell promised to transfigure the world into something I could understand, or at least survive. Now there's nothing of me left. Nothing of that little girl with the book of unusual plants. Someone will find me here soon. Probably the security guard. I think his name is Jackson. Mary Jo would know. Girls like her ask for people's names. I hope someone will care for her tea shop. I hope they'll take a wrecking ball to the Seedling. I'll finish the Mistress myself. Thank you for watching Nightmare Proof. If you enjoyed these stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to keep the nightmares alive. Have a story of your own? Send it in, and you may hear it here next time. Until then, sleep well if you can.